Hey Sam, really great to have you today on the Build Your A Team podcast. Thanks for joining.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Well, I am excited to talk to you because you've been on a number of shows, you've been on a number of platforms telling your story, and today specifically on the Build Your A Team podcast, we're going to talk about how you've built exceptional teams. Whether it was through the success came from just analysis, intuition, or potentially even pure luck, right? So, with our candid conversation, I think we're going to learn a lot from you, and I'm looking forward to that. Samantha Snabes. No, no, you said crabs. Snabs. Sorry. Sorry. Yeah, I've always pronounced it Snabes in my mind, but
It's a really tricky last name. I thought it was kind of brilliant when my Air Force team came up with that rhyming tool.
yeah, it's crabs and snabs, of course.
There you go.
Yes, that makes it easier. Well, you are the co-founder of and catalyst at Re 3D, which is an it's a huge huge up and coming company that builds large format affordable 3D printers from essentially waste plastics, right? And one of your taglines, which I love, is to dream big, print huge. And through your work, you've been recognized in a number of different um, yeah, awards. We were Creator Awards. You were the $1 million global winner. The We Empower UNSDG Challenge 2022 finalist, Amber Grant for Women in 2020. You are a US SBA success story featured by the SBA, and you're currently also a major in the Air National Guard, right? And
That is
you're still serving, and you're building your company, and it's really making a an impact to the world, to waste products, and for what we can do with that. So with that brief intro, do you have anything you want to say before we start?
Oh, I think that's very kind. Thank you. Yeah, we make large industrial 3D printers. We compete on cost and scale, and we were launched on Kickstarter. And we have a version that is tracking towards printing from plastic waste, and we also print with a lot of virgin materials as well, and in over 50 countries now with a really fun community.
That's amazing. These plastic wastes, where does that is that where does it come from? It just is it just from the recycling yard at each of those countries, or
Yeah, so not everybody uses our printers to print with shredded plastic waste, but we do have a subset that does. What we've
I
learned
see.
is everyone's waste is different. There seems to be a real interest in what we do and that part of our portfolio in island nations or in the Department of Defense,
Mm.
anywhere where supply chains are like really tricky and maybe there's some risk or delay like getting things in and out, either getting rid of trash or bringing in a new good. So um, we've had the honor and contracts to investigate taking, say, big plastic waste like from the bottom of a cardboard gaylord for the army or an MRE wrapper or a water bottle or a
Mm.
shooting target and grinding it up to print something um, uh, and a concept. And then we've also, in Puerto Rico, look at pharmaceutical waste, manufacturing waste. And then we've also seen people actually take 3D prints. So, like at the
Mm.
US Air Force Academy, they print these really big drones and then they, crash them or break them. So, we've
Mm.
looked at grinding them up. So, taking the print and then making another lightweighted drone copy. So, like a
Oh,
drone
that's
from
pretty cool. Oh, that's really cool. Yeah, so you're recycling all of that. What do you see these nations? You said you're in 50 different nations now. What do they print typically?
Yeah, everyone's needs kind of like their feedstock is different. we see people, making prototypes for a concept to actually making an end use good that might be sold. We see it in schools. We see it in national labs. So a lot of the real opportunity is like what we call the non-sexy stuff. It
Hmm.
might be a fixture or a jig or some sort of tooling that allows you to fabricate something quicker.
Mm. Okay, cool. Well, we know again, you're a former NASA Johnson Space Center fellow, a social entrepreneur and residence, and that's where you probably were exposed to a lot of these um, just ideas and concepts and this whole industry. Could you just walk us through like how did you build Re 3D and what was your initial intent?
Yeah, we were really fortunate that Re 3D was like never supposed to be a company.
Mm,
It was more of a spin-off of my time at supporting NASA Johnson Space Center and NASA headquarters as a social entrepreneur in residence, and then
mm,
volunteering with Engineers Without Borders, NASA Johnson Space Center, as well as Opportunity International, thinking about microlending and just meeting like-minded peers. Around that time, citizen science and the open source 3D printing movement was really underway.
mm,
And we started to think about what it would look like for some of our communities that we worked with to have their own 3D printer. But the people we met didn't really have a lot of interest in making like a small thing like an iPhone case or a Yoda head,
mm.
like a lot of people were doing. They wanted to make large functional items. So we were challenged to make a big 3D printer because the market really didn't have any. So we were looking at doing one under $10,000 to make it more accessible. We wanted to make it lightweight and take less power. Um, and ultimately, we started applying to some challenges to get some resources for that
Mm.
and what we thought would be like this open source project. And we ended up getting into an accelerator called Startup Chile. They gave us $40,000
Oh,
to launch
awesome.
our product live, or to develop our hardware. And then that year, so I quit my job and moved down there to Santiago, Chile.
Get out of
When I
here.
got there, I heard that Startup Chile had a booth at South by Southwest.
Mm,
And already being in Texas and my team being in Texas, I asked if we made this printer, if we could launch it live at their booth on Kickstarter, because we knew we'd need more money. And they accepted the challenge, and we were funded in 27 hours. Because what I didn't think about was the press comes through first through the exhibit hall. And so, like the first hour we launched, we were like instantly in TechCrunch and Engadget and Mashable.
holy
And
crap.
so people were sharing the story and the campaign, and we were a staff pick on Kickstarter. And so it was just, a lot of really interesting humans that all contributed to our launch. And then we continued to, we still, they're always kind of chasing our tails, but we offer pre-orders as well as customized solutions. And so the
Mm.
community's just been really gracious and allowed us to continue to grow with them.
I have so many questions here. Like, why Santiago, Chile? Was it just because they had that competition there,
The accelerator is based
the
there. So that's
accelerator
the
there?
terms is you get 40K, which at the time we thought was a lot more money to
Mm,
start or scale a company
sure.
in Santiago
Okay.
and then in Chile. And then it just so happened that yeah, the timing was really good for me and for the team to do that. And Re3D at that point, like we had chosen the name Re3D and were presented as a company, but really it was just kind of an investigation around,
Yeah.
this project. And then when we were funded on Kickstarter, just a couple months into the program, you're supposed to live there for 7 months. Then like it really became real because now we're in 20 countries and we've just launched this company.
That's amazing. I need to offline of this. I need to talk to you about that because I just came back from a week in Lima, Peru. right? And there's just a lot of opportunity, I think, there as well. But I'm so I'm curious here. When you now you guys aren't the only large scale 3D printer model. So what do you do? What are you doing well that's making you special in this space?
Yeah, about well, there were large scale 3D printers before we got started. They were just like really
Okay.
expensive systems. They were kind of heavy. They took a lot of power. And most of them at that time used proprietary feedstock.
Mm,
So the input material, they had like a blade and razor model. So we kind of came at it from a very different angle. So we were kind of unique from the beginning, and a little bit more especially accessible for people that can afford the big ones. Um, and then about 18 months, I would say, after we got started, or a year, we saw some peers in the ecosystem. Um, at Re3D, we don't use the word competitor because we really do believe you can make more pie together. And
mm,
the 3D printers are what we call a broad-based technology. They just relate to a lot of markets. So, you know, we used to say in the beginning that if there was too many peers in the community and there wasn't a need for what we were doing, we'd go on and work on a different challenge.
sure.
However, running a manufacturing company is really difficult. And there's just been a lot of headwinds for various reasons over the last 10 years. So uh, right now the market is going through a consolidation. So there's not a lot of us crazy enough to do it. And I think anyone that's around has a lot of respect for the other one. So I was
No,
talking to a kind of an adjacent peer last week, and um, I asked him if what he was struggling with in terms of supply chain, and he's like, oh, there's this one like screw component I've really had a hard time with. Is we're all tracking towards made in the USA, and I was like, well, I know two people that do that. I can connect you to my guys. And I was like, do you know anyone that makes stepper motors? Because there's this one motor that I can only get from China right now. And he's like, oh yeah, I've got this guy in Iowa that does that. So
that's cool.
you can also see us like spitballing and like, hey, would you ever go in on a purchase order with us? Because it's a low volume industry to maybe get better pricing together on
Sure.
these shared components. And it's definitely a conversation worth having. So um, I think what has been unique about us, and it took me a while to realize it, is we've always kind of come at it from a place of collaboration
I love it.
and respect, and try to model that. And I think that's earned us a lot of goodwill in the community and with our customers because we really do try.
Yeah, no, that's that's huge, and I would imagine that that's probably not. Um, I mean, I've known you for a few years now, Sam, and you're
Yeah.
that type of person. You just have that abundance mindset, and the pie is bigger together. But for people creating something, it's not common to to have that, right? And they want to kind of guard it and make sure that they can succeed with it. So yeah, that I commend you for that. And even though you're pioneering this path, you have this a different, mindset that's allowing you to be successful. So that's fantastic. Um, when you started, so I want to just ask a little bit about your team and how you built your team. Do you still have your team that you went through the accelerator with?
No, there were just co-founders. And then, we really, Re3D kind of like evolved as a business as a result of that.
Mm,
So they all had jobs, and then we would meet at night. And over the years, some people came on for different periods of time, but you know, in 29 to 2012, when Re3D was kind of evolving, like different peer groups,
mm.
we were not thinking about like, oh, what does it look like to have a manufacturing company? We're still working 70 hours a week, 15 years later. So, um, It's a very different reality. And, Re3D has turned into something really beautiful, but not exactly how we envisioned it either. We were thinking of,
Mm.
you know, serving these villages in Muganera, Rwanda, and other groups. So, um, yeah, I think there's different people that have come on and left their fingerprint in the company, and definitely, those of us that still stay connected over the years. But
Mhm.
in terms of like that initial cohort in January, so it's technically the first employee, I guess.
Yeah.
It's me, and then reaching back when from time to time with some of that original crew, and then people that came on over the years
Mm.
who left their footprint, and then we had teammates that we hired shortly after that, and some of them were on for several years, and then they left. But yeah, it's been 12, 13 years now, so
Yeah, I mean,
long.
do you still have a couple of those key like first hires or early hires throughout that's been consistent with you?
Not our first hires, but we
Hmm.
do have a teammate who's been with us now for over 10 years, which is pretty cool. And it's
Yeah.
it's fun. Like I went to her quinceañera and then her wedding, and but being such a young company and bootstrapped, my understanding it's pretty unique. Um, but yeah, it's been really fun to do life with people that have been on for several years. We give these gifts out around the holiday season, to teammates to recognize like the yearly milestone they've been with us on their journey. And at Re3D, I say, you can either grow through or with us. So that's a kind of a natural point too, sometimes where people will transition for like life
Hmm.
events.
Hmm.
It's always amazing to see. I was just looking at them actually last night. I had to order some stuff, like the number of people that have been with us for 5 years or
Yeah.
even 3 years or 1 year, being such a small business. It's pretty.
No, that's huge. I mean, I have somebody on my team who's been with me the longest, and he's been about 5 years, right? Now, for you, it's 10 plus years so that's amazing to have that kind of support. Um, so can you just how is your team comprised? Do you have mostly in South America, or are they in the States? Is it a mixture?
Yeah, so we started in Chile, and then when we were funded on Kickstarter, we realized it was cost prohibitive to manufacture out of Chile with tariffs and shipping. So I returned, and then the team we started building in Houston initially. Now we're in Austin, and so we had built up a team in Houston supporting it. All our early hires came back from South America as well, eventually for like visa issues or
Yeah.
family. And then in 2017, well, I guess the team, I'd always lived in Austin, and so I had some of the co-founders and original teammates. And then we also were establishing the factory and the facility we were leasing in Houston. So we
Hmm.
kind of built a team of both Houston and Austin. And then in 2017, we were invited to do a very similar program to Startup Chile called Parallel 18.
Mm.
Had similar terms. And around then, we were thinking about further increasing accessibility to the system by having a modified version to take shredded plastic waste. And an island nation, seemed like a no-brainer to try and do that. Um, and to, meet people and get feedback on it. So we started, we call it an outpost as a result of participating in that program. Um, and then I was there for a couple years doing that. And in the process, we hired our first teammate in PR during the hurricanes, and she's been with us since 2017. And then now we have two teammates there because we have a shipping container next to an IoT lab that has all of the hardware to grind up plastic waste and 3D print.
Mm.
Uses it more for education now.
Hmm.
Um, so we have both our 2D designer and our 3D designer in Puerto Rico out of that outpost. So
Mm.
it's a long answer to say, um, yeah, primarily in Austin where our factory is now. We have two
Hmm.
teammates behind in Houston, and then two teammates in Pierre.
The PR. Got it. Um, so international, well, not international, but you have like it's a definitely a distributed team. Yeah, that
Yeah, less and less so. After COVID and during COVID, we were considered essential. We had kind of social distancing, but as we came out of that, it became abundantly clear that we really, for what we do, because we make physical product, we really need to be together. Um, so now as we hire, we only staff people that are on site in
yep,
Austin or PR.
yep. Yeah, that makes sense. You've been through a lot just from your previous your podcast. I mean, you've been on a number of podcasts and you shared your story, so thank you for that. But there was one point that I mean, just to highlight your will, right? Your grit. You talked about trying to track down a supplier. You mentioned it's a very niche space you're in. So suppliers are niche as well, and to really find the right ones for you. Um, can you tell us that story of just how you ended up finding a supplier eventually, or how you like what kind of lengths did you go through to find your suppliers?
Yeah, we've definitely had some oh no moments in the company's genesis. About 5 years ago, kind of coming out of COVID, everyone was hit. Um, and we'd had one vendor that made like basically the brains, like the board the printer uses, and a touch screen. And um, you know, s- sometimes too, people make supply chain substitutions, but the we were struggling with QC, and so we'd had a number of units we'd had to return during COVID to get repaired that were due to us. And then usually with products like that, you have to purchase a bunch, which is scary because you never know if you're going to sell them. So we
Hmm,
have
hmm.
an order on hand, and um, just one thing led to another. I mean, we have a lead time right now, so I can totally relate. But
Mm.
we were drawing down on our supply, and then I couldn't get a hold of them. And I visited this vendor in person, trying to audit our supply chain over the years. And the product came from Southeast Asia, but the company was in California, and I just
Uh,
couldn't get a hold of them. I was freaking out because I had orders due, and it's already a low volume industry, and we're trying to get through COVID. So basically, we'd had an initiative where we were looking at other solutions, like kind of during COVID passively. So I made the decision to version the product basically overnight, which is really scary and was really frustrating to the team.
wow.
And we told our customers, and we're like, we're going to make the next version of our system. And I put a big sticker on it that said, "Congratulations, beta user." And here's the phone number to support. While the team was like rushing to version up. But I still, we're in 50 countries and we have this commitment that there's always a path to upgrade and that we offer lifetime
Wow.
customer support. So I still needed the boards and the money that was owed to us while, we had this gap where we were versioning. So just in a moment of desperation, which I look back on, I was really stupid. And I could have lost my security clearance over it. I was like, well, figured out where he lived, which is kind of creepy, but I knew where the business was because I'd been there.
Yeah, yeah.
And um, I went to California, and it just so happened, I think my first Uber driver was a bouncer. So I was like, hey, if I hire you, will you help me? Because he asked what I was doing. He's like, I'll try and help you find this guy. So
Mm.
I think I did it. Yeah, I think I did this twice, once with and without him. And like, I went to this guy's,
Wow.
like, there were multiple houses like associated with him and his family and apartments. I went to all of them. I went to the business. I would stand in front of the camera and I'm like, I know that you can see me. I
Wow.
need these boards.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, it was definitely a very impassioned moment. But I was just like, man, after we've made it so long,
Yes.
it
Yes.
seemed like I didn't have any other options. And if there was
Yeah.
any chance, like in person, he would give me like just 2 units so I could ship two
Yes.
printers, I would have taken it.
Yes, I agree. And the lengths that we would go to make things possible, like entrepreneurship is it is no joke. It is no joke, and you've been at it for so long now. So that's amazing to hear. How do you so to kind of translate back to building your team. I assume that's the type of people you're looking for, kind of somebody who can run through brick walls. And a lot of business owners are looking for that type of people. Like who can deliver on the mission, right? Who can buy into the mission, who can just be able to solve problems on their own. I'm I'm curious what your process is now to find these people to join your either Houston facility or Austin facility.
Yeah. It's changed over the years. There's definite times where we've hired people just because we needed a person.
Hmm.
And they seemed interested in what we're doing. Um, Recently we purchased our own land and facility, and it was a big lift as a bootstrap company to relocate. We also just kind of had to because we're over at least in the other space to relocate to Austin.
Mm.
And that
Isn't it better for you, like Austin in general, though, the tech
it is
environment?
nice being near
Right.
the capital. We're near the airport. We give tours already, so people
Mm.
are like excited about that. It's a
Yeah.
smaller town, and people generally are more excited to like move there.
Mm.
And then they're very focused on sustainability too. Um, but yeah, so we moved to Austin, and we lost some teammates in that process. They couldn't make the leap with us. Some people did relocate. And now we're hiring again, and it's kind of been interesting to have a think on who we are and where we're going after all of this drama. And um what I realized we need now is like not just people that are interested in what we do or maybe have a background in 3D printing, but people that like want a career in 3D printing. And so there's things we look for, like when they come for a test project or we meet in person. We look for someone who like is showing stuff they've done on their phone, and it's not like just like a printer where I pushed a button. Like they've designed it, and you can
Mm.
read their enthusiasm. They have a portfolio. If they're a software engineer, they've got a GitHub, and it's just really focused on what we do. You go on their LinkedIn, and there's like an image, and it's all 3D printing stuff in the banner. Like like they are just as crazy as we are. So we tend to hire for that plus experience now, which definitely
Mm.
slows down the hiring process.
Mm.
And then we like first contact, we won't interview anyone unless they fill out a survey. It's at re3d.org /careers. And it says apply. And there's like some quirky questions we ask. Like we give away one printer for every 100 we deliver to someone trying to make a difference in their community. We don't even like, we actually even just tell them what it is. Who would you give a printer to and why?
Mm.
And it's amazing to see like people that will say, this is a stupid question. Why would you ask that? Or um, there's an answer right now floating around that ChatGPT provides, and it's like the exact same copy and paste.
What is
Um,
it?
but but it's about Leonardo da Vinci. But so it's kind of good for us to weed out like who's just using AI and who really wants this job and their personality shines through, because we have these open-ended prompts. And also it allows us to see like attention to detail and grammar. And so now we do a lot of like subtle things like that. And then as we get closer to hiring, we do a test project together and make sure like they know which way to turn a screwdriver, and to see how they blend with the team. And usually like we'll go out and we'll have a team dinner. Almost like if you were rushing like to join the National Guard or the Air National Guard and to
Mm.
meet a team like where you're, constantly just like feeling each other out, because the reality that is, most people at Re3D stay with us longer than a year or two. And it's the season of their life, and we'll be doing it together.
Mm.
But yeah, we're much more deliberate now, I would say, than we were like in the early years. But more importantly, we want to make sure people know what they're getting themselves into.
Fair.
We're blessed to have been around long enough now and have content online. Like if someone really wants the job with us, they've probably gone to
Research.
the applications tab and saw a
Hmm.
video or a blog or listened to a
Hmm.
podcast and
Hmm.
have a sense for who we are too and done their
Hmm.
homework.
How would you describe? I mean, with your, your service now as in the reserves. and your life as an entrepreneur, how would you describe the culture of your company?
Yeah, I would say our company is definitely unique. I hope that I hope that it's good and it's positive. We
It is because
our,
people are still working for you for many years,
yeah,
right? Yeah,
a lot of people say like they really enjoy working with us and that
yeah.
it's less toxic than other places they've been. But yeah, I would sometimes I describe it as like it's like Disneyland where everyone's a character and it can at times be like the happiest place on earth. It's also really frustrating for the team because we always want to do more things than we can and being bootstrapped, we don't have all the same resources. So, there's those natural like tensions, but
Mm.
um it is a really cool place. Like I definitely laugh a lot throughout the day and I hope the team does too. Just a lot of things we work on are like so absurd. You're like, you saw that, right? So kind of like sharing those moments together. But like this week, we have a chili cook-off on Friday. One of our teammates just took on her own to lead. And then we'll have pumpkin carving within the goat pen with the goats. Last year we did it with them, and they just like it was so funny.
Mm.
And people will invite their significant other, but finding ways to like formally and informally to connect and just relate to each other in different ways
And
is really
it
important.
seems, is it spontaneous or is it directed by you?
The pumpkin carving, I actually started doing it at my house during COVID to social
Yeah.
distance, and then it just kind of like kept going, and then I just took it to the company. So that one's just an ad hoc thing I do as a person
Mm.
that the team really seems to like and bring their kids. And then when the goats got involved, it was just so cute. Because it turns out they really like pumpkins, and it's just a funny situation. The chili cook-off, that was all driven by the team. They just
Mm.
decided they were doing it. We have a teammate that makes a calendar each month, and I guess she bases it off of national days, and so it'll be like Smarties Day or Chocolate Day or Lost Sock Day. Once there was like um Lazy Day and Take a Nap Day, and I was like, can we not do those ones? But and she just like emails it out to everyone, but that was all on her.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Yeah, so everyone kind of like I think there's three guys that go out. There are different demographics. And they just play disc golf every day at lunch. And then some other engineers, I guess they decided they go to P. Terry's every Thursday. But it's cool. Like we try to encourage, people. Again, not everyone does everything, but just building relationships.
Mm. Yeah, so Hugh, that's why you ask those questions for in your interview, right? Just to see if the fit is there. Every company
Yeah.
is different. We're all quirky in our own ways. So you want to try to vet out for those people.
Yeah, people that don't want to do multiple things or that want more of a corporate feel and more of a distance. Like they don't want someone in their cheese asking what they did last weekend.
Hmm.
They tend to like not really desire working at our company, which is totally fair. So we try to give everyone, time to like really feel that out and make sure that, the way that we work and organize is something that they want to relate to.
Do you, aside from the interview questions, do you do other things in person or during the dinners that may be um, atypical to kind of vet out some of these behaviors?
Um, we definitely do a test project, and usually we'll give them something that might be a little ambiguous too.
Mm.
Um, like if it's a technician, they might get something on how to assemble something, but there's instructions, but our instructions can always be better. So there's some points where maybe you have to take like an educated guess or know to ask a question.
Mm.
So we'll
Gauge.
intentionally do that also because like that's kind of how your day to day is at Re
Mm.
3D, especially when we're making like custom solutions. So we give people an opportunity to say like how they would interact with the team if they
Mhm.
would be independent, how they would problem solve. And then when people on board, we say that if you survive a day, you get a t-shirt. And if you survive a week, I'm not supposed to say this, but we haze you. And so basically you get a lunch. And at the lunch, everyone in the company shows up and we'll tie in the outpost and we get to ask the person questions, which not everyone appreciates.
Yes.
But the team will go around and say, like, if you could meet anyone dead or alive, who would you meet? Would you prefer to go to space or go to the bottom of the ocean? Just like random questions that this poor soul has to like
Figure
answer
out.
with people they don't know very well for an hour
Yeah.
while they're eating. But it's kind of a good way, like at that point, if they've been there a week, they're kind of learning names to kind of
Yeah.
associate and relate to other teammates. And then, yeah, we do offboarding lunches, which aren't nearly as fun. Like we just had a teammate that got married and moved. But we'll do like a barbecue or a cook off or something, and then we'll try
Sure.
and ask like questions about like the best time, the hardest thing they did at work,
Mm.
or the most fun they've had. But the onboarding lunches are way more fun because people really get into like asking these crazy questions.
I love that. I love that. That's really unique, and that makes it fun. That makes it complete you, or your organization. Well, then I'm trying to think of some of the things that we do that's a little different, but we do have, in my company, just and you need to have these little things, these traditions, right? To make it more appealing and just different, right? Make it so that people are having fun. So, um, when you look at people who just like interview well versus just they may interview one way, but they join a onboard and they work for first 90 days, and you see that how their performance isn't matching. How do you what's your style? Is it people quickly do you quickly identify and quickly kind of trial and fail fast type approach, and do you quickly offboard them, or how do you guys deal with mismatched expectations of performance?
Yeah, I would say pretty badly. Everyone says I've done obviously we've done a number of accelerators now, including the one we did, CEO Circle,
Hmm.
JP Morgan Chase, and Member Labs, IVMF, and you know, and we're blessed to be part of the Texas Business Hall of Fame as a veteran recipient, and that network with these legends they call them, and everybody always says, they wish that they would they would help a teammate transition faster, and that's always their biggest regret. Everybody says it. Um, and I'm just as guilty, and I know it. And I've had these opportunities to get mentored in all these programs, but I do know that there's truth to identifying that it might not be a good fit pretty quickly. Um, and I wish I would do a better job like leaning into supporting that teammate because it's not fair to them. Like one thing I have realized with teammates that have transitioned is um sometimes they come back and they say it was the best thing ever and I wasn't happy and you were
Mm.
by not supporting my growing through Re3D chapter, I was holding them back too. So um
Yeah, it's
yeah,
better for
I
everyone, right?
I think I'm not good. I was really not good 10 plus years ago at having hard conversations, and I'm still not great at it. Both in the Air Force and in Re3D. I hope I'm getting a little bit better.
Sure.
Because I used to be more, I think, passive aggressive. Like I'd see someone coming in late every day, and I just would wait for it to get so bad before, I'd call them out. Now I find like I'll make little passive aggressive comments and try to pull people aside, but yeah, it's something that I don't do well. But we do try and with teammates, even when it's like not a good fit. Um, and if we can, if it's not too terrible, I try to talk to them and say, hey, it just doesn't look like you're drawing your energy from this, and it's probably not aligned. What can I do to help you find another job?
Mm.
So if I can, I try to give them, a runway to figure out like where they really would shine and to brainstorm with them,
Yeah.
and let them know that like, we really value their contribution to date. Um, it's not always possible, but it's hard. I'm still trying to do better at that.
Yeah, I think we all are, honestly. It's just hard. They say hire slow, fire fast,
Mhm.
but I mean, we're all human, right? We all have connections with people, and it's you can't just treat people like commodities and just cut them off. So it's very difficult. Um, but I think at the end of the day, if you think about it, where um, if you do let non-performance exist, it impacts the guys who are performing, right? It impacts the rest of the team. So that is the justification to move quickly and do the best for the company, right? For the rest of the performers and the A players on the team. Um, but Sam, I'm curious. You're obviously you're obviously doing something a remarkable endeavor here. You're a social entrepreneur, you're an engineer, and you started like with Hispanic studies, right? Back in University of Michigan, right? And biology. I mean, it looks like a number of different degrees. Can you tell me just what what compelled you to go into or just even dream about working at NASA, or take you're spending some time there. Can you tell us about like were you from Michigan the whole time, and how were you as a child and dreaming about your future?
Yeah, I always wanted to be an astronaut. So I went to space camp, and um, I got a book as a result and on a scholarship, and I got a book from there that listed all the astronauts and where they're from.
Mm.
And I like stalked them and would call them at their house. So I was a
Oh,
stalker back
really?
then too. And asked for their mentorship, and
Yeah.
also did a program, a young astronauts program under a gentleman named Carl Klimek that was amazing, and got to meet some astronauts locally. And they told me I had to go to college, and so that's what I did. And then later I learned I needed some research experience, so I got a job working at a life science company. At the time, I didn't know what DARPA was or
Hmm.
SBIRs or anything, but they had a grant, and that was for some hardware that was kind of almost in conflict with their main portfolio. And so they gave me the opportunity to kind of take point on just seeing that through, and ended up working out really well. And they got some phase 2 funding, and then it made it to commercialization and the phase. And so my former boss and I spun out the life science company. In the meantime, still I applied to be an astronaut for my first time, got the
Mm.
postcard that said, "Congratulations, you didn't make it past the first cut," and scrapbooked it. And I had also written an experiment to fly a life science experiment looking at blood clotting and reduced gravity. And
Mm.
so met people at NASA through that. So when the company sold or was under sale,
That was your first venture, you're saying, with your
yeah, also just an accidental business.
oh wow.
Oh, and then I couldn't afford my student loans. So okay, I was working on the Bachelor's of Science, and then also got the International Studies and Hispanic Studies
Mm.
BA, because I was starting um, BioFlow, my first company, and then also I look back on it now, it's kind of funny because it was impacted by a government shutdown as well. I got rejected and then got in to fly that experiment in the Vomit Comet for this program called Microgravity University. But due to the shutdown, they couldn't, their schedule was messed up. And so the rule is you can only fly your experiment if you're still an undergrad.
Mm.
And then, so I got the second degree to remain a student,
Ah.
um, so that following summer I could fly my project. And then, because I mean, that's like the closest I'd ever be to becoming an astronaut. It's kind of weird because right now we're working on a grant with NASA to fly in zero G again, but I thought that'd be the only time I'd ever do it. So I through that program, because it was in related to space life sciences, I met some people, some contractors and NASA civilians who were mentoring that program. Became friends with them. A couple of them I had gone to Capitol Hill with afterwards to advocate for NASA and all the resources it provides. And so my first company sold. Some of that was peers I'd kept up with said, well, we're starting this new initiative. People at NASA are really old. They're looking for someone under 30 that's started and sold a life science company. You're the only person we know of. Do you want to throw your name in the hat? I was just like, right place, right time.
Yeah.
So, right
Mm.
upon acquisition, they paid for my relocation to Houston. And then as soon as I got to Houston, because of my role with NASA too, doing like strategy and innovation efforts and whatnot, I got really involved with Engineers Without Borders, NASA Johnson Space Center. So already involved with Opportunity. And then that's how we accidentally started this company. So like there was no plan like for my career. I just always really liked space. I liked volunteering and I liked people and just was really blessed.
Just right place, right time. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's what it sounds
consistently.
like it.
Like it really
Yeah.
was always like other people that opened a door for me. It wasn't really myself. And I got the MBA and the two concentrations because when I had the company, I couldn't afford my student loan debt. So I did like the true American thing and took out debt to defer end it.
Right. 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 Um, what kind of lessons did you learn from your first business?
Yeah, it was interesting. When I was at the company we spun out of, we our goal was to like break a record to keep these stem cells um alive
Mm,
and replicating for over a year. So that meant like in my lab notebooks, I was drawing a picture of a Christmas tree on Christmas Day and a
mm,
turkey on Thanksgiving because the cells had to be fed and then you'd have to count them or split them. So I think I've always been a hard worker, but I did learn like the value and as we spun out of consistency over time and what it would take to start a business. It was a lot of work.
mm.
And I knew hardware was hard too. With that venture, we actually were trying to fundraise and then ended up selling, but I got exposed to that side of things, which I mean is almost a requirement for anything in life sciences. But I think that's what kind of inspired me to see if I could have a business without doing that. Um, because I saw like the pressure that came with, having
Mm,
someone that has a financial stake in your company and giving up ownership.
mm.
So I think, and then I think we have 3 patents from that. But it was really expensive, and then you have to litigate them and renew them, and so then I kind of became curious when I learned about the open source movement about doing hardware in an open way. So I think um, that experience just kind of made me want to see if business had to be the way that it seemed like everyone was doing it at the time.
Yeah. Um, well, we learned a little bit about your present and then just what made you you to go pursue these ventures. Where do you see yourself? I mean, it's hard to say. No one has a crystal ball, but where do you see you and Re 3D going in the future?
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting. I would have thought by now that there'd be more specialization of like the niches and the roles that we each play in the community and the 3D printing ecosystem. Right now, it's going through there's just a lot of headwinds in our
Mm,
industry that people are quick to write about. So I am, as that um, settles out, I would think that eventually there'll be more players again. Um, Re3D is always driven, by what the community wants. Right now, we know that, we have to continue to try and make it more and more user friendly. We're very interested in like really wicked hard problems. So we
mm.
are pursuing opportunities to develop a printer that would go in cislunar orbit, so around the moon, and
Oh,
be able to
wow.
take waste in space to make things.
Wow.
And we still don't know like 100% we what waste we'd be using and what we'd be making. we're doing different investigations right now that if that continues to mature, I could see us, that's a big endeavor. It takes a long time. And then we've always, been interested in with the containerized solution, with the printer that prints from shredded plastic waste, seeing, what that might look like, or even just with virgin material in like a camp of displaced persons. So I think we'll see more investigations like that. And then while on the steady state hardware sales and services and customer support, just really trying to make the printers, whether they print with garbage or not, like more and more user friendly. We have a growing number of customers that have multiple units
Mm.
where they version them up over time, which has been really interesting to learn from. And especially now with nearshoring too. So I think we'll become more and more invested in understanding what that interface looks like and what the tools someone needs and training to manage, dozens of printers at one time. Um,
Is the software your own as well?
no,
Or is
it's all
that
open.
okay,
Yeah, we
that's
keep a
all.
GitHub if anyone wants to check it out. And
Oh,
then, as a social enterprise, we give grants. We kind of slow down on the classes and workshops because of the relocation and the building retrofit. But my goal is to see, I bought a brewery, just like you would see people doing, goat yoga at a brewery and all the things to bring that to our factory. So it's a community space. So I would hope in the future, that is a really vibrant resource for East Austin.
oh, that's super cool. Um, so just real quickly on the software piece, is this something that you guys have designed? And is your software what you said it's open, but is this something that Re3D created, or is it an off-the-shelf thing?
The software, well, the firmware workflow is called Clipper, and it's kind of based off of a couple other printers that a community contributes to. And then we it's called forking. Like we fork it and make changes. Mitchell really does. And he's got really good hygiene about it. And so those commits and everything are all on our GitHub that people can see. So hopefully we're adding value for other people that use the flavor that we do.
Mm,
Um, but and no, it was definitely like an open source effort that we leaned
got it.
into that the community developed.
Oh, that's really cool.
Mhm.
Okay, well, finally, just from your multiple ventures, from what you're doing right now, just building this enduring business, what is your best advice you can give to other entrepreneurs, other veteran entrepreneurs listening about to build a great team for themselves?
Yeah, I think um, I think with a team, sometimes you're so desperate just to get, the product out the door or whatever that you rush. And again, the converse of supporting people transitioning if it's not aligning is not being afraid to take your time in the beginning and to really look for passionate people. Like, because passionate people will knock through those doors. They're going to stay late. Um, if something goes wrong or have emotionally be more grounded, if there's a customer and experience like that is, really hard. Um, if they're like really committed to the product and the team. And one thing that I feel like I'm always working on is I get so excited sometimes about the mission of A3D and the next step, or you know, manufacturing and hardware is like it's like you have like these stepping stones and inflection points,
Hmm.
and my role I'm always like looking towards the next one, but and how we can get these printers or these GigaLabs containerized systems into really remote areas or in space, but really the way the company came together and what we're called to do is to support each other. Otherwise, it's not worth it, right? And just trying to, as much as I can, remember that, remind myself of that, and that I'm just as obligated to support my teammates as I am our customers. that it can be hard to forget. And then the other thing I know I'm really guilty of is I've always found throughout the last 10 plus years, 15 if you count like the first time we were just like connecting as friends about what became Re 3D. But I'm always guilty of like being nostalgic for all these moments that I never appreciated
Hmm.
at the time. And the moments I'm nostalgic about, or the team when we, we're getting together at holiday parties or the Chile cook-off or whatever, are things that seemed so absurd and so hard or were so frustrating. And at the time, I was just kind of annoyed and then like looking ahead. But I look back on it and I'm like, man, I wish I would have like just paused to smile in those moments as like we're all being humans together.
Really powerful. Thank you, Sam. That's a good lesson for all of us, especially for me. And I appreciate your time and for everyone else listening. Now, hope you can use this, and now you go and build your 18. Thank you.
Thanks, Freddie.